On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis, because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week. They confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things that both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome to hour number 2 to start off this new week. It is a Monday, bright and early on the Early Line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. Still plenty more to recap and rehash from the end of an NBA season in game number 7 last night in Oklahoma City. The Thunder at home prevailing as an NBA champion for the first time in 17 years in Oklahoma City. We'll continue to recap what we saw with our coach, JY James Young. He'll give his reactions to Game 7. Of course, the unfortunate and devastating injury early to Tyrese Halliburton. Where OKC goes from here. Are we about to see a dynastic run? Where the Eastern Conference in Indiana goes from here. And, of course, his thoughts on Kevin Durant being dealt to the Houston Rockets as well. We'll recap some Major League Baseball from around the weekend. That was in DRS. It is NBA draft week as well. Round number 1, Wednesday night inside the Barclays Center in Brooklyn.
But also, let's remind ourselves this once again, Ben, the important parts here. Today, June 23rd. Next week is July. Next week after that, we start to hear about the teams loading up there, getting ready for training camp. The week after that, teams are in training camp. The week after that, now we're starting to preview preseason football games and Major League Baseball all in the middle. But I love how quickly things go, because how quickly out of season, right, Ben? We take a look at the NHL.
Yeah.
Man, all that action, all those hot topics, and can Edmonton and Canada win a Stanley Cup? Book closed. OKC, are they tough enough to win a championship here while they're still young at this point? Case closed. They won that yesterday. So the book continues to turn, but I got to tell you, usually it's like, and we're talking like the dog days of summer, which they are coming up, but I feel like this year, and I don't know what it was, like, the Eagles win the championship over Kansas City. Usually it feels like such a long occurrence to get football like back in your life. I feel like this off season was really quick, and I don't know if it's because we really enjoyed the NCAAs, we're really enjoying, Major League Baseball, where we had long runs in the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA, where it feels like we don't have that, 3 months of doom and gloom. What am I going to do until football season is here? It feels like we got through that relatively easily.
Yeah, it really does, DRS. I completely agree with you. It's like when we got to the offseason, we were already at mandatory minicamp, off-season OTAs, the off-season programs for every NFL franchise already done. Felt like the offseason was a tight window. Now they're on summer break for about 2 to 3 weeks before the rookies start reporting to training camp in the middle, late portion of July. We're going to have conference media days in college football starting in just about 2 to 3 weeks as well. It has been very fast. Of course, this is the final full week in June, a couple of days in June after next weekend as well, before we get to July, the 4th of July, and all of that, DRS. And of course, the month of June, the final month without an NFL football game. That includes the preseason until March of 2026. This week, though, a focus on the NBA still, even after the end of the NBA Finals. It is draft week in Brooklyn. Wednesday night, round number 1. Now a 2-night affair. Thursday night, round number 2. DRS, here are the odds to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to start off the NBA draft. The first two, we don't really have much of a question. Of course, when you won the lottery, as the Dallas Mavericks surprisingly did, you won the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. He is a minus 100,000 favorite to be the first overall pick. Dylan Harper, Rutgers, minus 9,000 now to go to the San Antonio Spurs. There was some kind of conversation the Spurs might go elsewhere to try to bolster the front court alongside Victor Wembanyama, as they just acquired De'Aaron Fox this season with the Rookie of the Year in Steph Castle as well. It looks as though they are selecting Dylan Harper. At number 3, where your Philadelphia 76ers select, that's where things get interesting. Currently a minus 280 favorite. The freshman from Baylor and the Bahamas, that's VJ Edgecombe. 4th overall, Flag's Duke teammate Incon Knipple. Trey Johnson, the favorite to go 5th overall at plus 230. 4th, the Charlotte Hornets. 5th, by the way, selecting there the Utah Jazz. The question, DRS, as you see those top 5 picks, we'll talk about Cooper Flag and Dylan Harper in a moment, is Ace Bailey. Where exactly is Ace Bailey, the other talented Rutgers freshman, expected to go? He is not favored in any of the spots to be a top 5 pick. He is the favorite to go 6th overall, and yet, from the odds perspective, DRS, Bailey is a minus 185 favorite to be a top 5 pick on Wednesday night. Make that make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You know what else doesn't make sense? We were talking about this last week where it's like, hey, you're going to put on your best effort here to get a job as a professional. So many times, like it's a different, again, professional sports athletes, great college athletes, different from regular life, as we like to say. But it's like, hey, you know what? I have 6 interviews out here. I really want this job with IBM. So I'm going to tank the other 5 interviews. And then if my job with IBM doesn't go well, I can't even go back to the other place because I didn't give them the time of day. I'm not saying this is going to backfire on Ace Bailey, but also understand this. Picks 1 through, let's just say 30, they don't make the same money in the NBA. It's not like it doesn't matter where I go. I just want to pick the best spot. Like, you're actively sabotaging your early career because let's understand this. Nothing is a given. Like you saw, like Tyrese Halliburton, Achilles injury, and Jason Tatum. Now, granted, they already have big contracts, years into the NBA, and things have worked out. But let's just say you're not that good a pick, because it happens quite a bit where you play out your rookie deal and nobody wants you in the NBA, and away you go to Italy or France, and you're trying to play overseas before your career ends. So wouldn't it be nice to say, boy, I'm going to put on a great face here. I'm going to have great workouts with teams, and I might even be able to go number 2 overall as opposed to going number 1 with Cooper Flag. But let's just say it just was the 3rd overall pick. I'm going to tank my selection to get down to 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever it might be, and then say, oh, this is awesome. Over the length of my rookie deal, I'm going to miss out on like $10 million, but I'm going to go to a place where I feel comfortable. It's going to be bad, where they're just going to let me be a gunner and shoot. It's just such bad optics, and I have no idea who's actually educating this kid on what you're supposed to do as a professional. I know he's only 18. Kids make mistakes, but that's why you hire an elite agency that's going to say, here's how it's going to play out. Work hard. I will guarantee you a good NBA career, as opposed to blow up and burn all bridges here, make yourself look terrible and not a team player, and I'll get you to the right spot. Horrendous.
The draft stock plummeting for Arius Ace Bailey is a little bit surprising to me, right? I had very high hopes for a Rutgers team ranked in the AP top 25 in the preseason to begin 2024-25. Because of Ace and Dylan Harper, 2 of the top 3 recruits, along with Cooper Flag of this 2025 class. And I kind of thought, DRS, it wouldn't just be the recruiting rankings, but also the NBA draft order. Flag 1, Harper 2, Bailey 3. Signed, sealed, delivered. So I'm surprised by what we are seeing here in his draft stock plummeting at this moment. I don't think it's based on performance, but as we have seen, DRS, organizations in professional sports, notably in the NFL draft, they want you to do things their way. They want you to acclimate. I'm not going to compare this to Shedeur Sanders. We don't know how long the slide will be for Bailey, if at all, on Wednesday night in Brooklyn. But one of the main reasons, I think, after all the reporting and hot takes we saw around Shedeur Sanders that he did, in fact, slide is because of how he went through the draft process. He didn't work out in front of the draft and talent evaluators, only really held his pro day, and people described it like a party, not exactly a football atmosphere in Boulder. You got to play the game, even if you don't want to show off your talent in the right spots, even if you think your game and your talent speaks for itself. It's interesting to me, to say the least. Drafting 6th overall, DRS, is the Washington Wizards, and that is the spot where Ace Bailey at a plus 260 price is the favorite. But again, he's minus money to go top 5, but is only favored to go 6th overall. Jeremiah Fears, the talented freshman from Oklahoma, is both the favorite to go 7th and 8th overall. Another big from Duke, come on, Malawach. The 9th overall pick is favored there. And as we shared, the 10th overall pick will be made by the Houston Rockets, but for the Phoenix Suns, the talented freshman from Maryland, Derek Queen, is a plus 550 favorite.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes out. But again, your point is right there. Like, it's a draft. It's not like you get to pick your team here. And also, if you're a team, like, let's just say the Philadelphia 76ers, that once you heard where they're going to draft, oh, that's Ace Bailey. And you say, well, that doesn't mean we're not going to draft him, even if it doesn't work out. The last thing you want is an 18-year-old kid upset and his own people giving advice, going, just go in there and make it so miserable to have to move you. It's going to be a wild scenario that plays out on Wednesday.
I think it is. Only the top 3 a minus money price. Baseball next.
Their team total is 19.5 wins. I told you to go under, and it's by far the best bet I have recommended on this network in 4 years. They can't get out of their own way. And now Sloot is out for the year. Let's hope Sloot gets back, because I respect the hell out of Sloot, and I want her to go out on her own terms. Hopefully we'll have her back for the 26th season.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl. I got a feeling there is no chance they're going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I'm just kidding.
They're still not expected to have over 8.5 wins. They're still not expected to have a winning record. Now, I know things could change for the next 24 hours. I get that. But everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to sign with him. He's going to sign with him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
A weekend recap around Major League Baseball with one of the hosts of Pro Baseball today. Of course, that is Donnie right side, right there on your screen, DRS. Now, Donnie, I was in Italy this past week, so when a bombshell trade happened in Major League Baseball last Sunday, just over a week ago, I was really out of the loop. Rafael Devers, of course, being traded from the Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. One thing I really missed was the fact that the Red Sox were scheduled to play the San Francisco Giants the following weekend. Talk about some harmonious timing, if you will. So how did Rafi perform against his former team in Boston? Overall this weekend, 2 of 12, a homer, 2 RBIs, recorded a walk. That's interesting to see Rafi in the orange of San Francisco, and 3 Ks. The Giants did win the series against the Sox, taking 2 of 3. He played DH in all 3 games. He will soon make the move, they say, to first base for San Francisco, and he did homer in Saturday's game against the Sox as well.
Yeah, a good performance there. Why? Because he was probably a little bit nervous. Got the home run, got a couple RBI, got that out of the way. Now he can sort of decompress, get used to being in the Bay Area here, new living conditions, new teammates, new ways to the ballpark. You get all that. He'll eventually settle in. He's a great hitter. But again, when that news broke on that Sunday night, 15 minutes before the first pitch, where the Giants were scratching the starting pitch, going, that's interesting. And then the Rafael Devers situation came down. Here's what I loved about it, too, because it feels like it was, unanimous as a, Twitter society out here saying, you know what, this is a ridiculous trade for the Boston Red Sox. You have a team that's worth a ton of money here that should not just be cutting salary cap space because they feel that's what's best for the organization. You should be adding on. You should still have Mookie Betts. You should still have Xander Bogaerts on your team. You should have Rafael Devers and all that young talent that you have in that franchise with the ability to pay everybody because it's the Boston market at this point. And sometimes, Ben, we get these. Remember these trades? Like, let's just equate it to the NFL. It's like, man, Carolina got one over on the 49ers, man. McCaffrey, what a steal. Yeah, steal for the 49ers. If you have a legitimate Major League Baseball talent that's shown he's proven to be one of the best players in the league, you should not be trading him because you got a couple prospects back, which probably 75% of the time don't even make it to the majors here. And if they do make it to the majors, are very average. You get 2 average pitchers, 2 randos here coming up here in the minor league system. And yet the San Francisco Giants, who have money to spend and nobody would take it, they go, you know what? Let's go actually the trade route here. We'll spend a lot of money. We'll spend a little bit of capital, give away a couple pitchers who probably are meaningless in our future, and get Rafael Devers. A massive, massive win for the Giants and a complete loser for the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, DRS, and this was a Boston team that acquired Alex Bregman in the offseason. That, of course, led to some drama around Rafael Devers. They have the young trio of young superstars, Roman Anthony, the latest call-up there as well for the Red Sox. This was a Boston team that many looked at after the Yankees, perhaps, in the American League as the second best team the Rangers thought of in that same respect. It has been a very disappointing season for the Sox. There is no doubt about it. And they lose the weekend against the San Francisco Giants as well. So the Giants feeling pretty good about where they are currently. When you look around the National League West, of course, the Dodgers in front, 48-31, but the Giants now the second best mark in front of San Diego, only 3.5 back of LA. Another divisional rivalry this weekend, DRS. Of course, that was the Phillies and the Mets. Sunday night baseball, that Sunday night finale to the weekend that was. The Phils take the weekend and the rubber match, winning yesterday 7-1. The Mets did snap their 7-game slide on Saturday. A once proud organization in the month of June, really struggling here in the last 2 weeks or so. And these two teams, DRS, have really been battling it out, kind of changing spots atop this division. Way back at the end of May, the Philadelphia Phillies were 36-19, I believe it was, on May 28th. The Mets were 34-22. The Phils had a 2.5 game advantage, but then Philly lost 9 of its next 10. The Mets went on an absolute heater, winning 11 of their next 13, and on June 12th, had a 5.5 game lead, or a 4.5 game advantage over the Philadelphia Phillies. But then the Mets started to stumble on that long slide. The Phillies started to play a lot better baseball. They win the weekend. And at the end of it, it's Philadelphia that emerges with a 1-game advantage atop the National League East. And the -150 favorite are the Titans right now, DRS, to win the divisional crown.
Yeah, looking good right now, too, and also doing most of this damage here without Bryce Harper, which is the team MVP. Getting back sooner than later, that offense starts to look even better. Alec Boehm, 290 now in the season. Trey Turner still hitting 300. A lot of guys really stepping up in the moments here and having key at-bats without Bryce Harper. But also understand this. Jesus Luzardo has been really good and sometimes really bad this season. He was phenomenal in Sunday Night Baseball, and if you're throwing David Peterson out there, he's been really good, and they roughed him up for a couple runs there in the 5th inning. In a way, the Phillies went to a 7-0 lead in the events of a 7-1 victory. So for my money on this point, and I'll say this repeatedly, the ebbs and flows of the Major League Baseball season. The Braves look like they're out of it. Have be any contenders in the NL East. We'll see if they might be able to fight for a wild card spot. But the Phillies and the New York Mets will go back and forth all summer long. One team goes up 2 games, another team goes up 2 games, maybe 3 games apiece, 3 games the other way. You'll get used to that here. But it's interesting. Like the Mets look like they were having a chance to run away with this thing before the All-Star break and completely collapsed upon themselves. They need to get back, certainly. The starting pitching's got to get a little bit better. And the one thing we talk about with the Mets too, Ben, which is you don't have the frontline starters that you say, oh, that's the guy I love. Like, hey, David Peterson, not necessarily a household name. Let's see if these guys can continue to pitch well, because right now, the end looks, hey, that train's coming down the tracks right now, and it's getting closer for the Mets. They got to play better sooner than later.
That's the question, DRS, right? The Amazins off to an amazing start this year. They've had the best record multiple times, and not just the NL, but all of Major League Baseball. A starting staff that was kind of performing above its head. If that regresses even slightly, do the Mets fall back? Of course, New York loses the weekend, but still only a game back of the Philadelphia Phillies. You mentioned the Braves. They're playing a little bit better. They have won 8 of their last 12, including a sweep of the Mets during the midweek. But they did lose the weekend against the Miami Marlins in the rubber match on Sunday. So Atlanta still multiple games below 500 and 11 games back of the Philadelphia Phillies atop the National League East. There is so much more to get to around Major League Baseball from the end of a weekend and the Sunday that was, including Shohei Ohtani on the bump. Only 1 inning of work, but technically his second start of the season, and was great at the dish as well. What's Big Dumper doing out there in the Northwest? He's got 31 home runs to lead all of the bigs. Plenty more around MLB next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis, because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent the message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face, and after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday Night Monday. Oh, Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Does a guy like Giannis fit onto that roster if you can make some of those changes?
I just don't see a KD pursuit as being realistic for the Knicks. But hey, if they can pull a rabbit out of a hat, as Leon Rose oftentimes can, I'd go after Giannis in a heartbeat. It's just, what type of package could they entice for the Milwaukee Bucks? And is it a 3 or 4 team trade? It gets a little bit tricky in that regard.
You see the Knicks there with a plus 340 price.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
A weekend around Major League Baseball to recap for you here on the opening day of a new week. It's a Monday on the early line. DRS start number 2 of the year for Shohei Ohtani. Again, just 1 inning of work, but after his first start of the season on Monday, start number 2 yesterday against the Washington Nationals. Only 1 inning, but did go scoreless, striking out 2, and then had a huge day at the plate. 2 for 4, a home run, a triple, 5 RBIs in a high-scoring affair as the Dodgers win against the Washington Nationals. 13-7, the final at the Ravine yesterday.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because you look at the Dodgers. They didn't even score a run through 5 innings, still played at 13. That's how explosive that lineup can be. But also, more eyes focused. We know Ohtani's going to be great at the plate, probably going to be the MVP, and yesterday widening his margin in that MVP race. But here's the issue that comes up. What's the goal here for Ohtani? Are we just throwing 1 innings? Are we just going to keep him as an opener here? Does he get more high-leverage situations? Are we working him in the 2, 3, 4, and 5 innings, whereby late August and September, he would be a factor in the actual 5-man rotation and heading into the playoffs?
Yeah.
It's a good start for Ohtani because he's feeling good in that spot here, but the expectations, I would believe, that he's going to get regain his starting role, which means 5, 6, 7 innings when he's available to do that, not just, hey, let's take it easy in his first year back and have him as an opener every 5 days.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You would think the plan is right now, because he came back even prior to the All-Star break, a little bit earlier than people expected, almost by a month. Maybe they're just working him through. You extend in the second half of the season. But Donnie and I were all over this, not to pat ourselves on the back. A couple of weeks ago, DRS and I were live in studio in New Jersey. We looked at the odds. Aaron Judge running away already with the American League MVP race, and Ohtani was a slight minus money favorite. I think it was minus 125, minus 180, whatever it was. And we said, listen, it's already minus money, but this is a good bet because Ohtani is going to pitch at a certain point this year with how he is delivering at the dish already as the favorite. Lay down the money now. He has had 2 outings of only 2 innings, but he goes scoreless yesterday. Shohei Ohtani now minus 550 to win his 2nd straight National League MVP award. How about Big Dumper DRS out there in Seattle? That's their catcher for the Mariners, Cal Raleigh. Hits his MLB leading 31st home run of the year yesterday. 4 homers in the series in total inside the friendly confines against the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, sensational hitting environment this weekend at Wrigley, no doubt about it. And yesterday on the Pro Baseball Today show, I did have 2 of my 3 guys that I picked for home runs, hit home runs. And one of those guys, it was out of principle. Cal Raleigh was a plus 135 to hit a home run yesterday. That is ridiculous. I'm like, you know what? That price point tells me that the books know he's going yard and say, we don't want you to bet this price. But your boy DRS goes, I'm betting this price. And I took the Big Dumper yesterday to get his 31st, and he did that. And by the way, shout out your boy DRS also for a plus 475. Well, Mickey Moniak did a home run yesterday. But the big one yesterday, how about Noah Schanuel, our guy out there for the LA Angels? A plus 800 hit home run. Tom Vecchio picked that, and he hit one yesterday. How about that?
Nolan Schanuel, man, getting it done for the boys on PBT. The Mariners take the weekend, winning 2 of 3 against the Chicago Cubs. DRS, 15 series this weekend, right? A full slate, all 30 teams in action. The Brewers, the only team to pull off a 3-game series sweep. They do so against Minnesota, taking all 3 games against the Twins. I wasn't here really last weekend, but Joe Frieso, our producer extraordinaire, tells us there was 9 series sweeps a weekend ago. Only 1 of 15 this time. The Brew Crew get the job done. Yeah, crazy. And Christian Yelich has been absolutely red hot. My dog of the day yesterday was the Brewers, and I sent out a tweet, Ben, at 9-3. Hey, man, them dogs are barking out here. Blink of an eye. It's 9-8 with 2 runners on in the 9th inning. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Did I jinx myself? No, I didn't. The Brewers won, got the sweep there, and away we go. And Enjoy the Festa got beat in that game. He took the loss. Yeah, the Brew Crew playing really well here, DRS, in the month of June. Now a 4-game win streak again, just 3.5 games back of the Chicago Cubs, who, of course, did not win the weekend at home against the Seattle Mariners. We talked about the Atlanta Braves. Can they muster and rally? Not great news for the Braves yesterday. Chris Sale, the reigning National League Cy Young winner, placed on the IL with a fractured rib cage. He was hurt diving for a dribbler against the New York Mets in the 9th inning of a gem on Wednesday against the Amazons. Weeks and weeks and weeks he should be out, which could be devastating. And by the way, for the Braves, riding that high, like, hey, we took care of the Mets, then you lose the series to the Marlins. Back to the basement you go, and that fork just starts getting sharpened up with the knife. Time for Thanksgiving down in Atlanta, Ben. 35-41 DRS. When I left for Italia, they were 10 games below 500. But you can't lose the weekend against the Fish. But not great news for Chris Sale. Our coach, J.Y. James Young, next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent a message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face. And after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday night, Monday. Oh, the Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Does a guy like Giannis fit onto that roster if you can make some of those changes?
I just don't see a KD pursuit as being realistic for the Knicks. But hey, if they can pull a rabbit out of a hat, as Leon Rose oftentimes can, I'd go after Giannis in a heartbeat. It's just, what type of package could they entice for the Milwaukee Bucks? And is it a 3 or 4 team trade? It gets a little bit tricky in that regard.
You see the Knicks there with a plus 340 price.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Monday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. The NBA season is now through, and a new NBA champion has been crowned. For the first time in 17 years in Oklahoma City, the Thunder stormed through the association, bringing a Larry O'Brien trophy to OKC for the first time ever. And our coach, JY James Young, is here to recap it all. Game number 7 last night, the entirety of the game, a tenor that was changed after the Tyrese Halliburton injury in the opening quarter, but how OKC prevailed in that second half, namely the third quarter, to cut down the Nets as an NBA champ. JY, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here to start off a new week on TEL.
Congratulations to the Thunder, but Ben, most importantly, welcome back.
Thank you very much, JY. Excited to be with you in studio in person on Wednesday for our NBA draft show. We'll get to that throughout the coming days. All right, JY, the 2 best words in sports for the first time in nearly a decade in the NBA Finals. Game 7. The Thunder a 7-point home favorite, a total of 215.5. And OKC wins by double digits, covering on its home floor and becoming an NBA champion for the first time in 17 years in the state of Oklahoma for this franchise. 103-91. DRS and I discussed this earlier, JY, the dichotomy of a Game 7 last night, a historic stage in the NBA, point blank to begin, in a competitive game early on. But of course, the entire atmosphere of the game changed with about 5 minutes remaining in the first quarter, and Tyrese Halliburton going down with that significant and devastating Achilles injury. But ultimately, the Thunder, who were the best team in the NBA all year long, expected to win an NBA championship, ultimately do that, prevailing in the second half. You were live with Kevin Walsh last night, watching all of game number 7. What was your reaction to what we saw throughout its entirety, and OKC ending as a champ?
Well, first things first, Tyrese Halliburton was on his way to, I think, having a monster game. Ben hit his first 3 threes, looked really comfortable. And then literally, Ben, what I was saying, well, if I'm Mark Dagnall, I got to get the ball out of his hands. And I'm looking at the assist market with Tyrese. Then goes the injury. And for, we talk about this a lot on the early line in every show I've been on, is when a team loses a star player, how they can rally, usually it's like you find out the day before, right? Someone's out playing that first game, they play really, really well. Then it's the game 2 that you get worried about when you come back to earth. What you had here was a team in Indiana that really relied on their defense and their three-point shot. They were outscoring OKC by 12 points at the three-point line at the break. Everything else, Ben, was lined up perfectly fine for Indiana. They were mucking the game up, they were making it half-court basketball, and they were surviving. But then halftime happened, and that was my biggest concern, Ben, was at halftime, Oklahoma City's going to look around and say, we got to turn up defensively. And that's what they did, turning up the defense, hitting big threes. SGA hitting a three, Luther hitting a three. I think shot it so high, one ball went up, 3 balls came down, and one of them came in the basket, right? Chet hits a 3, right? So they hit 4 threes, but early in that second half, and away they went. And I want to give a shout out to Chief Dave McConnell, who was literally put the smallest guy on the floor, put Indiana on his back. But you can't go from 8 minutes and 32 seconds of the third quarter until 7 minutes of the fourth and have him be the only person that scored. At that point, Oklahoma City saw what was going on. They turned up their defense, forced a ton of turnovers, and away they went to a 12-point win.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you watched that play out, too, last night. Just the anticipation and also how Tyrese Halliburton has been so big in so many big moments in this playoff run for the Indiana Pacers. The first 7 minutes of the game, Coach knocks down 3 triples and deep triples there, saying, you know what? I'm in the building. I'm ready to play. And then you see the bench performance. 40 total points out of T.J. McConnell and Benedict Mathurin here. But then I look, Coach. Obi Toppin, 21 minutes, 0 points. Miles Turner, 24 minutes, 6 points in that game. Aaron Nesmith, 3 points. You needed other players to step up, but also looking at that game, Coach, tell me how good OKC's defense was. 91 points for the Pacers in the biggest moments here. OKC really cramped down here once Halliburton went out.
And Donnie, to be honest with you, that's OKC's MO, is they lean on their defense until they make a run. And it's usually in that second half. The only time I really remember the big run happening in OKC was that 2-3 minute burst at the end of the second quarter of Game 7 versus Denver, that 15-2 run. They get you and they start to turn you over. But at the end of the day, Indiana became incredibly easy to guard because of the lack of playmakers to even get them into offense. And listen, as great as T.J. McConnell was, he was throwing the ball all over the gym. Now, it's partially due to the fact, Donnie, that he had to do way too much, and there wasn't that other guard. And then there was Obi Toppin. The best bet, the easiest bet of all time was Obi Toppin under 10.5 points. Why? Because that guy is a walking turnover at times. And he does some of the wildest stuff. And, I mean, listen, Rick Carlisle, every time Rick Carlisle put him in the game, Donnie, he couldn't get him out fast enough. That's how much he was hurting that team. But leaning on your defense, that's what OKC does. And at the end of the day, even though he was, I think, 2 of 11 from 3, SGA from 2, his ability to create, and then that run in the third quarter was just too much for Indiana to overcome.
Yeah, it certainly was, JY. They started off that third quarter on a 20-10 run. They won the third quarter by 14 points. And from that point, OKC had kind of instituted its impressive dominance in that second half. 21 turnovers forced last night by the Thunder against the Pacers, plus 131. That was the turnover differential in favor of the Thunder throughout this playoff run, culminating in a championship, the best ever in a single postseason run in NBA history. You mentioned it, JY, 2 of 12 last night from beyond the arc for the NBA MVP, and now Finals MVP and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Not his most efficient scoring night, 8 of 27 from the floor, but still finished with 29 points and a playoff career best for SGA, 12 dimes as well. But then you look at Jalen Williams, slow start, still poured in 20 points, 18 and 8 out of Chet Holmgren, and a defensive force down low, 5 blocks, a difference maker on that side of the floor last night. Our question, JY, entering this postseason in the NBA Finals, could this young core, led by the MVP and Shai, along with J-Dub and Chet, would they rise to the occasion? They did last night. What did this young trio in Oklahoma City prove to you in Game 7?
That they are here, they've arrived, and with the 29 draft picks that Sam Presti has at his disposal, the $16.7 million away from the first apron and the $9.1 million tax space they have going into next year, they may not be going anywhere for a while. They've set the bar on what is to be expected. And as we have knocked Sam Presti for years to say, when is it going to turn? Where is it going to turn? It's here. They're good. They're young. They're athletic. They're dangerous. And with the season they had, Ben, I don't even know if they've hit their peak yet. And that's the scary part.
Yeah, it's good times. You're looking at OKC and what the future is going to hold for them. But, Coach, I've been asking this entire playoff run, give me a Chet Holmgren's experience here. You take a look at Chet, 18, 8, and 5. Thank you. Showing up in a big moment here, Chet Holmgren. My goodness.
Oh, and Kevin and I were cursing out Mark Daggett on the second quarter and first quarter because we didn't know what the substitution pattern is. But him and Jalen Williams, those I know hit threes. Those two were the key in the third quarter. Maybe we counted for at least 15, 16 points. Played really well in that third quarter to open the game up. But Chet defensively at the rim, oh my Lord, it was a problem.
Chet Holmgren, only 23 years old, not of legal drinking age for all that many years. The only wrong he had last night, they were celebrating with the Michelob Ultras in the locker room, and in his post-game press conference called it Michelob Ultra. But he'll find that, I am sure, for Chet Holmgren. I know JY's looking forward to some Michelob Ultras this summer. We'll talk about OKC's season in the history they made next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Plenty of takeaways from Yankees-Dodgers where LA sent a message on Saturday, and the only way the Yankees could salvage it was somehow beating Yamamoto, and they did.
You're staring a sweep in the face. And after losing the World Series, knowing what the opponent is, you know what the narrative would have been on Sunday Night Monday. Oh, the Yankees get swept by the Dodgers.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Does a guy like Giannis fit onto that roster if you can make some of those changes?
I just don't see a KD pursuit as being realistic for the Knicks. But hey, if they can pull a rabbit out of a hat, as Leon Rose oftentimes can, I'd go after Giannis in a heartbeat. It's just, what type of package could they entice for the Milwaukee Bucks? And is it a 3 or 4 team trade? It gets a little bit tricky in that regard.
You see the Knicks there with a plus 340 price.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The Oklahoma City Thunder are an NBA champion now. As we expected throughout a good majority of this season, the Thunder capitalized on Game 7 in their own home arena inside the Paycom Center. 11-2 at home straight up throughout this postseason and championship run. 10-3 against the spread. Of course, JY, the overall atmosphere of last night's game changed with the injury to Tyrese Halliburton. But OKC was a 7-point favorite for Game 7. They cover, winning by 12. Their home differential, an average home margin of 19.9 points per game throughout this playoff run. Best we have ever seen in a single NBA postseason. And Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever, to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games in a single NBA campaign. When you look back on what Oklahoma City accomplished last night, winning that Larry O'Brien trophy, how will you describe this season for the Thunder?
The beginning of a dynasty. You know, when you look at this team, especially after they got knocked out of the playoffs last year, you looked at them and they said they had to get a little grit. They had to get a little toughness. And they went and got that in getting Caruso and Hartenstein to kind of help fortify the backcourt and the front court. You know, obviously Caruso coming in, hitting 2 big threes as soon as he got in the game. I think his over 3-point props at 1.5 at plus money. Hartenstein struggled a little bit. They ran a couple of pick and rolls, decided to flip it from the right side to the left side, kind of got him going a little bit, and the defensive force that he was. It's just the beginning, Ben, and you just look at a team with, you know, these guys at such a young age, and, you know, Chet's got a team option, Ismail Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, man, they're all coming back. All of them. And then you have to look at what's coming up the pipe, starting with that first round draft pick they got via trade through Miami. So they are a team that has really arrived, and now they have set the bar. The bar has been set. We thought it was Boston last year. I know the Tatum injury impacts them, but in the Western Conference, you got to figure that they are the bar now, and teams have to go up and play them. So you need to think about, when you're a team like Indiana, you need to have big guards. Like the little guard, 6'1" dynamo backcourt. Like, I don't think Cleveland would be a good matchup for them if they played the finals next year, because Garland and Mitchell are too small. You need bigger guards to defend. You got to be able to play multiple styles, and you got to match your defensive intensity, which is increasingly going to be difficult next year.
And also rising at the right time for OKC, like, you know, the Golden State Warriors aging out of that dynasty that they had. Houston made a big move here, which we'll get to with Kevin Durant. You take a look at the Lakers, but LeBron James is aging. It does seem like it's the time now for OKC. And also, it does date back to that 2019 trade when Paul George was like, oh, no, you're going to trade Paul George. What's next for OKC? Well, they get SGA, 5 first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps here to get them, and you get the MVP like the Thunder. Presti has made all the right decisions, but the future, 26 years old, in your prime, when you take a look at SGA, the sky is the limit now. Like, he's already at the pinnacle, coach, and he's just getting into the prime of his career.
I have a question. How does Lawrence Frank still have a job with the Clippers? Like, after that trade, like, I would be an ostrich. I would stick my head in the sand, and you'll never see me again after that trade.
Yeah.
But with that young roster, you know, Donnie, it's going to be about health, right? Can they stay healthy? Do egos come into play? The one thing I saw about SGA that I saw so great is I saw a guy that's a superstar of the team humble, right? I remember I saw a couple of times Caruso was yelling at an official last 3 minutes. He's like, yo, relax, calm down. Like, to me, that's what I look at SGA. It's the most best part about him is not his game, but his mental makeup. He seems to be, doesn't get flustered. Same thing with Jalen Williams. Scott Van Pelt interviews him last night. I'm looking at this kid saying, this guy dropped a 40-piece in the finals, and he acted like he had 5 points. That's probably the most impressive thing about the team, not their age, but their maturity in relation to how young they really are.
And they still have 13 first-round picks in the next 7 drafts. They just won an NBA championship and will have 2 selections in the top 24 come Wednesday night of this immediate 2025 NBA draft, including one from the Clippers in that Paul George trade at 24th overall. Let's talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, JY, the 11th player ever in the history of the NBA to win the finals and regular season MVP in the same season. Now the 4th player ever in the history of the association, alongside Kareem, Shaq, and MJ, who did so 4 times, to win MVP, scoring title, NBA title in the same season. Is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, James Young, the best player in the NBA at this current moment?
Woo. Yes, I'm going there. It's him and Joker, and I think he may have supplanted it because of Ben. And watching the series closely, it's not just his ability to score and pass and rebound. His ability to defend is on another level. Listen, they have Lou Dort, they have other guys, they have Caruso, but if those two weren't on that team, you can say that SGA to me is a first-team All-NBA defender. As great as Nikola Jokic is, you can't say that about him. But because of his age, because of the fact that this is a guard-dominated league, right, but an ability to have the ball in your hands and to control everything from the point of attack offensively and defensively. After that performance, God, if he would have hit those threes in the fourth quarter, he would have 40 last night with his eyes closed. Right now, the best player in the NBA, I'm going to say it based off his performance in the finals, is SGA.
He is not the NBA MVP favorite for next year. That's Nikola Jokic to win trophy number 4 in what would be the last 6 seasons, but he's not all that far behind. The Oklahoma City Thunder, though, JY, a very, 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 very short favorite to already win a second consecutive Larry O'B trophy next year. Plus 220, the second best price, the Cleveland Cavaliers at 8-1, nearly quadruple OKC's number to get to the other 29 teams around the association. The Knicks at 9-1, and there are the Houston Rockets, also now tied for the third best price, second best out of the Western Conference at plus 900. Why? Because Kevin Durant now plays his basketball in H-Town. The big move of Sunday to start off the NBA summer. JY's reaction next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week. They confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
A very big day around the NBA yesterday. Game 7 in Oklahoma City. The Thunder crowned an NBA champion for the first time in 17 seasons in OKC. And before Game 7 even got tipped, JY, during Sunday afternoon, a blockbuster deal in the NBA. We expected it to happen sometime soon, maybe even prior to the draft. It does yesterday. Kevin Durant is now dealt to the Houston Rockets. The Suns and the Rockets agreeing to a trade. KD at the age of 36, turns 37 in September, now makes his way to H-Town in return to the Valley. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th overall pick on Wednesday night, in 5 second-round selections as well. We can talk about who won this deal, what it all means for both franchises, but of course, JY, let's focus on Houston, a team that was 52-30 last season. Number 2 seed in the Western Conference. A promising young core making its way up, and now they make the move for Kevin Durant. Why did Houston make this deal, and will it ultimately be successful in making the Rockets a true contender?
You know, when you think about this deal as compared to what I thought Orlando did getting Desmond Bane, I don't think Orlando is a championship team yet. They're getting there. I think Houston looked at this and said, we're one score away from being a title, being a championship team, a team that won 57 games and went way over their win total. Ime Udoka could have been coach of the year, and they had the assets, Ben, to go and move it. Here is the amazing thing. I think Houston needs to get a lot of credit, Ben, for playing this perfectly. Why? They waited. They waited. San Antonio, nope, they didn't want him. Minnesota, KD didn't want to go there. Miami didn't have the assets to probably go get him, right? And then New York didn't want him. So if you're Houston, you're sitting back saying, all right, we'll wait for you to come to us. And the big sticking point was keeping Jabari Smith out of the deal, which I guess makes sense. But Jalen Green, who's a dynamic scorer, Ben, who was awful in the playoffs, except for game 2. This is a good move for a team now that now can put Amen Thompson, emerged last year, KD, and Şengün in the front court, got to re-sign Fred VanVleet, and then it's either Reed Shepard or Cam Whitmore in the back court, and then the other one is a sub along with Tari Eason, and a sneaky good move bringing back Steven Adams on a 3-year, $39 million deal. If Oklahoma City is 1, then 2 right now has to be Houston.
But if we do look at Houston, though, because I don't like the deal overall. In the immediate, Coach, I said at the beginning of the show that I do think it makes Houston a better team. Nobody's going to argue that. But you just watched the way Oklahoma City built their team. And I felt like if there was an A team out west, it was OKC. But that B team was the Houston Rockets, sort of found those coattails, building with a very good young head coach that can be there for a decade plus, building with a young organization, say, we're going to learn how to win. Like Fred VanVleet's like the old man on the hill. He's 31 years old. Adding Kevin Durant really shakes the dynamics up where I thought that you just stayed the course, you might be able to battle OKC over the next couple of years. But for me now, Coach, it feels like this is like a 2 to 3 year window for Houston, and then we're starting over again?
I think they're going to be able to do both. If you really think about it, Tari Eason, 24. Fred VanVleet's a little bit older. Şengün, 22. Shepard, 20. Jabari Smith, 22. Tate, 29. Thompson, 22. Whitmore, 20. They're still young. So I think there is an able, Donnie, by not giving up on Jabari Smith, I think there is a way that they can play both. They can win now, and then when KD's done in a couple of years, Jabari Smith slides to that power forward spot. I think because if they didn't give up Jabari, I think they played it perfectly in regards to win now and win later.
Right. Now he will be 37 years old. That is Kevin Durant in September before the start of next NBA season. It'll be nearly 2 decades for KD in the association. And yet for the last 7, JY, including last season, he is still averaging at least 26 points per game. So I'll ask you point blank. Will the Houston Rockets be competing for a Western Conference crown in 2025-26?
Absolutely. This team is loaded, and they have arguably one of the top 3 coaches in the NBA, in Ime Udoka.
All right. That's a pretty good answer. Makes it pretty short and sweet. JY, I asked you point blank. You delivered point blank. That's how we do it. By the way, Wednesday night, the NBA draft show, round number 1, JY and myself in a new and improved studio in New York City. Ooh. Also, Kevin Walsh and Tom Vecchio out in our New Jersey headquarters as well.
Yeah, we got the nice one.
I think you'll probably be here on Wednesday, I would assume, to talk about the NBA draft. So we're praying away to then, and hour number 3 next.